Today is Friday, March 1st, and we're going to go around the bases with our MLB insider at the New York Post. He is none other than Jon Heyman. Jon, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you, Ryan?
Good. I know you're really busy right now. Spring training absolutely underway. You're all over the place covering all these baseball teams, but there's still a couple of big name unsigned free agents, starting with Blake Snell. Jon, you wrote a couple times this week about Blake Snell and where he stands, what teams are pursuing him, and the big names that we keep hearing. The big team that we keep hearing is the New York Yankees. And a lot of Yankees fans are wondering, can you set the record straight here? Is there a legitimate chance that the Yankees can sign Blake Snell before the season starts?
Well, I mean, anything is possible. Certainly, it does. It looks like a long shot at this point. Unfortunately for the Yankees, they'd certainly love to have him. They love Blake Snell. They had made an offer for him that wasn't quite to his liking. I believe a 5-year offer. It's been several weeks now, and that didn't work for him, and probably still doesn't work for him. He's not changing that, but Snell is willing to do that Bellinger type deal, as Scott Boras told the Yankees this week. They talked at least on Monday, probably since then, but at least on Monday, and he's willing to do that 3-year deal with the opt-outs. The issue then is that if the Yankees are going to pay that much money and give up draft choices, they really don't want him leaving after a year or even
Right.
2 years. So, it's a debate. It's something worth talking about, but there aren't too many owners who would pay that extra luxury tax, which really is 110% right now because the Yankees are over the tax. So, if they sign him for 35 million a year, it'd be another 38 million on top of that. So, not an easy decision for an owner to make, but you combine Snell and Cole, they're the automatic favorites, at least in the American League. And I know the Dodgers have an even glitzier team with Ohtani and Betts and Freeman. But to me, if they got Snell and Cole, they're the World Series favorite. Does that guarantee anything? No. We've seen wild cards win several times in the last few years. So doesn't guarantee anything, but it certainly would be exciting if they were to do it. But that 3-year with the opt-outs does not seem to work for the Yankees at this moment. They may change their mind. We'll see if there are injuries or what. So you can't count them out, but
Right.
at this moment, there certainly is a gap.
Well, that seems to be the X factor there. What does the owner, Hal Steinbrenner, want to do? Does he want to pay that tax, right? You wrote about that he has the ear and he's listening to Garrett Cole, Aaron Judge, his star players, and what their influence is on the decisions that he wants to make on this roster. And if they're giving the blessing of, yes, go sign a Blake Snell, does that influence and hold enough power and weight to Hal Steinbrenner say, you know what? We're going all in because we do have Juan Soto only for 1 year, Alex Verdugo for 1 year. This seems to be the 1 year the Yankees are going all in. Can he swallow that for the one season and pay up that tax that's so much you're talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, I do think they have influence. Can they sway him? It's not going to be easy. It is his money. You can't really bash him for not spending $73 million on a pitcher. I get it. It was interesting that Juan Soto did tell us this week as well that he would love to see Snell, and Juan Soto may know him even better because
Yeah.
they were teammates together for the last year plus in San Diego. And he says he's a great dude, and obviously he's a great pitcher. We didn't need the scouting report on that, but it's an interesting one that we've turned the calendar to March, and we still have really 4 stars out there and a bunch of other players still unsigned. So, but Snell at the top of the heap.
Yeah, well, and those big names, obviously, Scott Boras is their agent. So the media sees how that plays out, and the fans are wondering where these guys are going to go. So if you're saying it's unlikely with the Yankees, is Blake Snell most likely going to end, or I shouldn't say most likely, but what are those other teams that you think are in on Blake Snell that could possibly land him that big deal?
Yeah, I did my best guesses in the post today on my Friday baseball notes, and I guessed the Giants. They're certainly in contact with Scott Boras over Chapman, probably even talking Montgomery. Snell's a guy that would work for them. They're under the threshold. They have the wherewithal. Their fans are very anxious. They wanted stars. Obviously, they tried hard for Stanton, had a deal for him at one point. It fell through. He didn't want to go there. Harper, also, they tried for. Obviously, we know they tried hard for Judge, who's from Northern California, didn't get him. And there's a lot of reasons for the Giants to want to do something, and they're not going to pay that 110% tax. So uh, that's my pick right now. We shall see. There's obviously two pitchers out there and a third baseman. They've been talking about Chapman as well with the Giants. I'm going to be surprised. You can say, never say never, but I'll be surprised if they don't land somebody out of this group because they're clearly in contact with Scott Boras and they clearly want to improve their team.
The Giants are interesting. It feels, John, when you look at it, does Blake Snell want, is he going to value more a winning franchise? Like, do the Giants feel like a team that actually is going to go for it when you consider they're going to be facing the Dodgers a bunch this year? That's a brutal lineup to go up against. It's not, it is a pitcher friendly ballpark, but is that a team that he could really end up with? Or with the Angels, another franchise that just lost its, or you could argue its face of franchise in Shohei Ohtani. You still have Mike Trout, but a team that's really seems like it's in the middle. You still got the Astros there. So does he value the winning part and will take less money, or is he set on his, I'm not moving from this mark. I need to be paid as an ace and a Cy Young winner?
Yeah, I mean, the Giants have had trouble luring stars, and for a variety of reasons, but particularly hitters, right? All those guys I mentioned were hitters.
Right.
They did sign Correa, and he didn't pass their physical. He did pass the one in Minnesota, didn't pass their physical. JD Martinez is another guy still out there who declined to go there. He was offered somewhere around $15 million.
Mm.
It's a tough park, as you just mentioned, for a right-handed hitter, particularly one that goes to right center. Very, very difficult. And that's basically the reason that he turned it down. Nothing against any of the personnel of the Giants, or probably even against their chances, because you can make a case for them being a playoff team rather easily. It's difficult to make a case that they're going to beat out the Dodgers, but really there's two or three super teams in the National League, right? The Braves, will throw the Phillies in that mix,
Yep.
and the Dodgers, and then you still have three more playoff spots, and that's why David Stearns told me that he feels they're a playoff caliber team. There's three more spots, and obviously he's done the metrics. He's a math man and figured it out. And the Giants are not far away. They have signed some free agents. They have improved. They're not a bad team. He is from Seattle. It is a pitcher's park. If they give him the deal, I see no reason why he wouldn't go there. Now, I've heard he likes the Angels too. And he's been working out in Southern California. What's not to like about Southern California?
Yeah.
Tough to make a case that they're a playoff team at this juncture, but frequently a guy will go for the deal and convince himself that the team has a chance if they get me.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I'm sure he's holding strong for the money he deserves, and he's won the Cy Young. I think teams are starting to
Twice.
look teams are starting to look into these guys past and performances before the year prior. Even if he just won the Cy Young, they'll say that he doesn't go as long in distance games, things like that. It's
Right. I mean,
interesting how these teams try to negotiate with these players. You know
yeah, I
what I
mean,
mean?
there's something on everyone. Unless
Right.
Mike Trout came out in the 3-4 years ago, or when Cole was out there, or
Yep.
you got something on everyone. Even Yamamoto, he had not gotten a major league hitter out, right? So
Right.
you can make a case against almost anybody. But yeah, you hear a lot about Snell walking guy. I mean, he walked 90 something last year, led the league. He still had the lowest ERA in the league in the majors, and by far, and a 1.2 ERA for the last 5 months. I mean, it's funny. Is there a recency bias or isn't there? He was
Yeah.
fantastic last year, and people are now looking at his past.
Yep.
Chapman was great in the past, was not good last year. They say due to injury, but for whatever reason was not. And they're holding it against him that he wasn't good last year. So you basically have to be good across the board, or they'll find something on you.
That's how teams try to negotiate with these guys. All
Well,
right, so
sure.
let's move on to our next topic. The New York Mets took some big hits in their rotation already. We saw the Kodai Senga injury. Matt Kranick now on the IL. It's not a strong rotation to start as is. We know the Mets are, they're not saying they're not competing, but let's be real. This team is, it's not what it was the last year going for it and signing the big name free agents this offseason. But there is still Jordan Montgomery out there. So would the Mets, could they possibly say, let's go get Jordan Montgomery? Because they do need some help in that starting rotation.
Right. And for this year, and actually for next year too.
Yep.
So he could be a fit more than anything for them. I don't see how Snell's a fit, right? Because if he's going to want that opt out, he's only going to be there 1 year, and this is probably the least important year for the Mets. So Montgomery does make more sense than Snell. Does feel like a long shot. They again are over that Steve Cohen tax threshold. It was named the Steve Cohen tax for a reason, and they figured that he would be over it, and he is. And frankly, he did lose a lot of money last year. I do believe that,
Yeah.
and it's not easy to, if you sign a guy for 25 million a year, it's going to end up being 52 million. And this is not a year that they're really going for it. They have been trying on the pitching front. They tried for Tehran. He took a little bit better deal with the Orioles, who had really been pursuing him all winter. Figured that they liked him a little bit more, I think, based on the pursuit.
Hmm.
So they didn't do that. There are other guys out there. Lorenzen still out there. We'll see. He's kind of looking for a 2-year deal, and so far he's got 1-year deals. And then there's our old friend Noah Syndergaard, who's throwing in
Mm.
Texas. He's got a lot of NRI, which is non-roster invites, minor league deals with a chance to make it. And so far, he's made a lot of money, so he's not jumping at them. He's throwing in Texas, waiting for a major league deal. Not sure that the Mets are really consideration there, but I think they're at least debating Montgomery. I would put it at a long shot at this point.
Fascinating stuff. It's just like you said, he can help Montgomery. He can help more than just this season. He can be a key piece in the future for the Mets if they really wanted to go for it next season, so to speak, compared to this year.
Right,
All
and
right.
also, if they do not have a great season, and we'll see what they end up doing. But let's say they win 75 games again or 80 games, it's going to might be difficult to lure free agents. Like
Right.
we said, guys can convince themselves of anything, I guess.
That's right.
But still, it's better to come off of have a good season and have something to sell the free agents on. And obviously, you've got Alonso. That's the big one, and I think they are interested in Juan Soto, as we wrote about as soon as the Yankees acquired him. The Mets like the young guys, right? They went big
Right.
for Yamamoto, Soto 25. That fits them. So, we shall see. But there's some good free agent. Corbin Burns is another one out there next year. But it'd be a nice head start if they actually were able to do Montgomery. But again, I think it's a long shot at this point.
And then finally, John, let's bring it home. We speaking of the Mets, are they still going to address this DH position? I mean, we saw Vientos homer today in spring training. It feels like you still need protection for Alonso, especially in a contract year. You want your star player to hit well, and if you truly are invested in this team, you need a real DH, because I just don't know if a guy like Vientos is a good enough bat. He's a young guy, but I don't know if he's good enough at bat to put there behind Alonso protection. So JD Martinez is still out there. You talked about he already declined the San Francisco Giants offer.
Mm-hmm.
He's a proven veteran. He can provide you actual protection to Alonso behind him. Could they possibly look into that?
Right, and he's not 25 million either, right? He's
Right.
going to be less than that. He turned down 15 or so from San Francisco, but they could get him for that, I'm sure, or maybe even a little bit less, I would say. And even if you double that, that seems, because the tax, that still seems fairly reasonable. The Montgomery, I could see it. If you're paying 25 million, you add 28 million. Now we're talking $53 million. With JD Martinez, I got about a cleanup for the NL All-Star team last year. Still, it seems if you get him for, let's say, 12 million and you double that basically to 25 million, that doesn't seem that unreasonable to do, especially because they do need the guy to protect Alonso. The fact that it's in a contract year, that's more for him than for the team, but it's nice if they would do him a favor. I'm sure they want him to put up big numbers, whether it's a contract year or not.
Right.
So,
And it lengthened your lineup too. When you think about it, actually makes it a really
right,
good lineup. You got Lindor, you
right,
got Alonso, you have Nimmo, McNeil, Marte, and then if you added JD Martinez, that's a pretty good 5-6 right
right.
there. I mean,
Alvarez, right.
Alvarez. I mean, that's a
Alvarez
good
and
lineup.
maybe Beatty. A
Right,
lot of guys
Beatty.
struggle their first year. I mean, even Mike Trout wasn't Mike Trout his first year. So maybe Beatty. He's certainly, they love him. They have a big scouting report on him. He just didn't quite do it last year. So I mean, he's got potential as well. So there could be a very good lineup. You're right.
Well, John, we appreciate you always going around the bases. I'm sure there's going to be stuff developing here because we're already in March now, and we're less than 30 days away from opening day. So
Yeah.
I'm sure deals are going to be coming fast and furious, and we're looking
Well,
forward to
we'll
seeing.
see. I mean, Kyle Loach signed on March 25th, and he was ready in that first rotation for the Brewers. I don't know, that was about 10 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
But
You think these
these
guys are going
guys
to be
are
ready,
working
John?
out. So what?
Do you think they're going to be ready for opening day?
Well, if they sign now, they certainly would be. If they sign March 25th, it's quite a trick. Kyle Loach did it. He was ready. And Montgomery is working out right. I'm in Miami. He's working out right behind me. They're not right behind me, but back there at the St. Thomas University, and Snell's working out in
Right.
California, and so I wouldn't push it to March 25th. I think Kyle Loach was probably a special case, but I think they still have time. I don't think we can count on anything happening in the near term, meaning the next week. No guarantees.
Interesting stuff, John. Appreciate you as always, my man.
All right, Ryan. Have a good weekend.